Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to, beginning with this lesson, lesson number 2 we have here, you're going to have some vocabulary, and I'm going to have everybody go take a turn pronouncing vocabulary, which means I'm going to have everybody unmuted, and you can see on the screen, you can see the vocabulary words we have there if you're following along online. So you want to, that's right. So you're going to read, if you'd read the first vocabulary word there, could you pronounce that?
I'll go.
Ago, which means I lead. Okay. You want to take a shot?
For some reason, I'm thinking akuo.
Akuo.
Is it really?
Akuo, yes. Akuo. Very good. I hear.
Blepo.
Blepo. Which is I see, or if you get into, as you learn, as your Greek advances, you'll find out probably more the idea of a glance rather than a very fixed look. Is anybody online? Do you want to? I don't think she wants to do that. And Joe's not with us today. Okay, so I'll take the next one. The next one's echo. Echo, I have. I have.
Luo.
Okay, which is I loose or destroy, which is actually, they sound like those words wouldn't go together, but they do. Okay. This one's just a hair tricky because we haven't really talked a great deal about
Something. I don't know where the N is, and it's Angelos or something like that. But where's the
okay. If you put two gammas together, it makes an NG sound like that. So that's where we get Angelos from. Okay. Okay. So two gammas together give us this NG sound, which is why that top word on the right-hand side of the right-hand column is angelos, angelos. And we're going to say that letter that follows angelos too.
Ha.
Ha. And that's the definite article, and that's the definite article, which we're going to be talking about here in a little while.
It does.
What? Because HO is ho.
Oh,
Does it say HO?
Well,
Stupid. Underneath it has this is.
the key to remember that is Omicron
Ha
is always short. It's always short. Okay.
But you wrote it in English too.
I did.
Ha.
Okay. So,
This is his notes.
okay. So the next one,
Delphi.
Adelphos, and that also is ha. And normally, if you'd say these as vocabulary words, you'd say ha Delphos because the article would come before it. But they're doing it because you're learning the vocabulary word.
So if it was written in a sentence, it would be ha Adelphos?
Yes. Yeah.
And would you separate the ha and the Adelphos, or would it
Yes.
be Adelphos?
No, we'd have a space out in front of it. Yes.
Okay.
And then we have doulos, doulos, a slave or a servant.
Karpas.
Okay. Karpos, that's fruit.
Lagos.
Lagos, yeah.
Ha.
And that's important to say it right, because there's a lot of people because we learned the word logo, which is based off of that. We say those both as long O's. Because the Omicron is short, no, we don't do it that way. Now, if you look on the definite article on each one of those up above there, each one of those has that little hooked line. And so every vowel at the beginning, this, by the way, I'm going to erase this guy's name. Danny Zacharias has some videos for Greek online that go along with a textbook that he's produced. And we're not using his textbook because his textbook is designed to kind of teach everything you need in one semester, which that's overload. Yeah. Okay. And I haven't looked at the textbook. A lot of people, they do like it. It just, you're not really you're going to learn basics. Yeah. Primarily, plus a number of other things that we're not going to tackle yet. Okay. But every word that begins with a definite article, or every word that begins with a vowel. I am so sorry. So we have the word artos. This has then a smooth breathing mark over it. So when you have that, it looks kind of like an apostrophe, but it hooks away from the word, then you're just going to pronounce it as a normal vowel. Okay. But this, but if we have, just trying to think of what example did I put up here? Oh, I know. Yeah, there it is. Does anyone want to take a shot at that? Just without knowing anything else. Right?
Amartya.
Okay, hamartia. And that's the
I've
word.
been really practicing a lot, okay?
Good, good. And that's the word sin. This is the nominative singular form of the word sin. And that breathing mark hooks in. So
Breathing it out.
That's
Yeah.
how, yeah.
yeah. So
Well,
so you're going to pronounce. So
It's,
the
it's
pronunciation.
like this. It's like you're breathing this word out. So ha.
You're a good grade school teacher, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're always coming up with clever things. I'm going to erase those so nobody gets confused. But if we pronounce that word, then these first two letters are pronounced as an H-A. H-A.
Not to be confused with this.
Oh, with the, that is also hot.
I know.
Well, and that's the same thing because then that would
Alpha.
have what? We have artos, bread. If we called it the bread, we'd put that. And the same thing as rough breathing mark.
But no, she's saying the ha.
Ha versus the ha.
Yeah.
Ha and ha. I'm probably accentuating the distinction just for clarity. What? Ha and ha.
Oh, there's a huge distinction there.
Oh, I know. That's what I say. It's very nuanced. Very nuanced.
Very.
Okay. But this is the rough breathing mark. There's one other case in which we're going to use rough breathing marks, and that is when you have a row at the beginning of a word. So we have the word rhema, which is the word for an utterance of speech. Oh, I should have had you pronounce it. I'm sorry, bad teacher. And if they have a rough breathing mark over it, then you're going to pronounce the row with kind of
Clear your throat.
an H.
Clear your throat. Crema.
R. Yeah,
Crema.
yeah, which you can see that in the notes today. But that's but this is a word for an utterance. Okay. Okay. I'm not trying to strictly in the notes reproduce what's in the book, but we're trying to stick to this outline. This is the way when I was at taking Greek at the University of Northern Iowa, this is the way our professor did it with a slightly different textbook. Okay. So
Always has a breathing mark, you're saying. Okay.
at the beginning, yeah. So every vowel at the beginning of a word always has a breathing mark, smooth or rough. Okay. And so you need to learn to pronounce it that way. And then also, and that's also true if you have diphthongs, which obviously are just two vowels in that case. And then any, as we said, any time that you have a row at the beginning of a word, it also is going to have a rough breathing mark in that way. Okay, let's see. What else do we want to go on? Any questions on that? Let's just add, for addition on pronunciation, we talked about the pronunciation of the letters last week. Now we're just adding this about pronouncing vowels in the rows, depending on rough breathing marks, because those are marked. And those, by the way, those are marks that were added. You'll see them if you look at a Greek text today, but if you look at a copy of a Greek manuscript, and I think I was showing this to my wife last week. This is the Chester Beatty Papyri. And you can see, if you look at that, they don't really, for the most part, put any spaces between the words. You see no accents. You see no breathing marks. That wasn't some, and everything was written in capitals. That's the way they wrote. And what is this one? Well, this does not say, but I think that this one is a 3rd or 4th century manuscript.
Everything is written in capitals or everything is written in lowercase?
Everything is written in capitals. when you look at that. So those are all capital letters.
Except for there's a omega in there that's not.
There is, that does look like a lowercase when I'm looking down there. That's very interesting. And actually the very first word, nomen. Huh.
Lazy.
But that some of that is how they act. Some of that is actually, that is how they date manuscripts, because they kind of knew how they were writing words or how they wrote things at the letters at that time, but how they wrote words, because they used different things in there. So interestingly enough, just as an aside, the oldest recognized copy of the New Testament are two fragments that are about this big, the front and back, that come from the Gospel of John, which is the most, the skeptics are really reluctant to include John as an authentic gospel. Most critics think that it was written late, not by John, written by somebody in the 2nd century after the church had developed a theology, because they think John's theology is just way too developed for that stage of the church, which is really a foolish understanding. But they're kind of trying to attribute for Christianity under normal religious circumstances. But they dated those. Originally, they were dating those like 150. Then they said, no, it matches the writing from about 125. Now they've even scaled back even to 100, which would mean that copy was made within 5 years of John writing that book, which is really an amazing thing. And those are the oldest, and that's recognized by scholars that is what it is from, and that's approximately the date on those. So it's kind of turned some critical, scholarship a little bit on its ear. Okay, so now punctuation marks, which again, they're a little different. Commas and periods, pretty much we have those. The colon is a period that's in the middle of the line rather than on the line. And the question mark is our semicolon. So, and you can see, again, these things are all in the textbook. So, and this is the textbook we're using. I think you guys at your house have the old red edition, which will go over 95% of this stuff in largely the same order. And then other marks, which Robin already caught this one, that if you have an apostrophe, and the example that I use, I think is, I'm not for sure if it's the one that they use in the book, but if you have apo auto, which is from him, because you're putting a word with a vowel at the end against another word that begins with a vowel, they sometimes drop that for smoother pronunciation, and they replace that vowel with an apostrophe, kind of like the way we contract words. And so you're just be aware of that. You're going to come across words that they're going to say that kind of looks like that word, but it's short. And Raman's Greek text that she was looking at this morning had met instead of meta, but they had the apostrophe to indicate that. And then we also have that little looks like if you take German, they call it an umlaut. In Greek, it's a diaresis, and it's two dots that you put over a letter. So the example that we have listed here is the word, the name Moses, but it looks strange to us, the way that the word is written. Okay, so we have Moses, and there is a diaresis over the upsilon there to tell us that these two letters do not form a diphthong. They're pronounced separately. It also helps us when we divide these into syllables in this regard. So that, and we're going to get to syllables in the next paragraph from our notes. So we have Moses, which is kind of interesting because in Hebrew, you also kind of pronounce Moses is different. His name is actually Moshes, which if you know in Greek, man, a lot of times they Greek men that have the name Moses, they don't say Moses, they say Moshe.
Moisha.
Yes, yes, because they kind of get this all squished together like that. Exactly. In this way.
Whenever Miss Mrs. Maisel teaches me so many.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. So, any questions on this? Kind of blitzing through some of that. But
I just don't remember seeing colons and question marks.
you don't
I just
you don't see
it.
a lot of punctuation when you look at a Greek text. They use it sparingly compared to us. I would flunk Greek because I would use so many commas. But they are very sparing. And again, there were some in New Testament times, but even more rare than what we have in our modern Greek text because they've been added over the years.
And is that because, so in English, I feel like punctuation helps to add understanding.
Yeah.
So it would be really helpful if that's what punctuation was also doing in the Greek.
Right.
But since I don't read Greek currently, I can't know whether or not that makes it confusing. Like as you're reading, does it make it so that this could be this, or it could also be this, depending on where you throw in a comma?
Sure. Yeah. And so to a certain degree, because some of these things were added later, and we don't know if the New Testament writers used punctuation like we have it in some of the old ancient Greek texts, and I didn't look through this sheet to see if he has any. I can't see any off the top of my head, but looks like there might be a dot there, but that could be a scratch in the papyrus.
Yeah.
So, but it's hard to see. I have color versions of these. By the way, just to get off task again for just a minute, if you go to,
Not too high, not too high.
they can still see it. CSNTM, which is the Center for the Study of New Testament Manuscripts.org. I think I mentioned this last week, but this is really cool. This is Dan Wallace from Dallas Seminary. He and a team have gone around the world and they have taken really good photographs, I should say, good digital photographs of many of these manuscripts, so that now you don't. I was telling Peggy, when I was in seminary, my Greek professor had like a big book, which was photographic reproductions. You had to open this big book to look at these. Now you can go online and you can actually look at these manuscripts in color. You can see the color of the papyrus and everything, and you can zoom in really well on it, which you can't do obviously with a picture on a page like this. So it's something to look at sometimes, just to take a look at what a manuscript is. You can type in the text you want, and it'll show you all the manuscripts that actually have the verse out of the book of Matthew, and you can click on it and it pulls it up and you can actually look at it. And just to see, I'd encourage you to do that sometime. It's kind of an interesting exercise to look at some of the very old copies of our New Testament manuscripts. Because to our knowledge, we have none of the originals. We don't know that we have any original copies anywhere in existence. Okay, so we've talked about the breathing marks for pronunciation on vowels. We've talked about the punctuation marks. We've talked about the apostrophe that we use when we're dropping off vowels at the end of, more often than not, a preposition that precedes a noun or a pronoun. And then now we're going to come down to syllables. And we're going to go over the rules of syllabification, but for the most part, and I'm going to say this very clearly, because with syllables is the issue of accents. This book teaches accents. When I went to college and I took this, and we learned it out of Machen's Greek, which is in many ways similar to this, we had to learn accents. And he's going to give you rules of accents. One of the things I did not pick up when I studied Summers originally is I always thought that the rules of accents told you where an accent goes. It doesn't. The accent, you learn the accent as a part of the vocabulary word. What the rules do is tell you where that accent can go once it's there and where it moves as the word changes. Having said all of that, this is a book called The Elements of New Testament Greek. And this was printed originally in 1914 by H.P.V. Noon. And he, in his opening section, when he goes to syllables or accents, says, we're not going to learn accents. He tells you this is how they work, this is what they are, but it's not something that he pushed his students. I think this was printed at Cambridge, but I don't think he taught at Cambridge. No, he did. He was a lecturer at Cambridge, I'm sorry. And then another place, but he taught Greek. And he said he doesn't find accents that important. Number one, they weren't part of the original Greek text. They weren't written in there. Second of all, with the exception of a few times, you're going to come across a word and you might look it up and you're going, oh, well, it's this. And you have the right word, but as a part of speech in there, you're going to be looking at it and going, how come my Bible on the computer or the book that I'm looking at, why does it say it's this? And it's because the accent. So this means an editor, sometimes after Paul or John finished writing, somewhere down the road, a couple hundred years later, accented that word in such a way to say that is this form of the word, not this form. Now that's a judgment call, and you may disagree on that, but that happens very seldom, very seldom. Are you ever going to find? And so I bought, when I was getting ready for the class, trying to decide whether I was going to use Summers or not, I bought the new version of this. This went through a revision in the 60s, and then this is the most recent revision of this. And it's almost like a whole new book, other than that he follows the general outline, and he does the same thing. So all three generations of this book, the professors that are writing these books, they're all saying the same thing. We're not going to fuss on accents. I tell you, I love that, because I didn't have to put on as much deodorant in the morning. Because I tell you, I'm just saying, I sweat really hard with accents. It's hard.
Okay.
I have struggled with accents. I use Greek every day, and I hardly use accents. Or I put them when I reproduce words for other people. I add them just because other people sometimes get upset.
Well, so I feel like maybe it was last week, and I don't know if it was during class or if it was when we were talking afterward. You said something about how the location of the accents ends up becoming irrelevant because you say the word that's how you say the word, so you don't need the accent to figure out how to say the word, because that's just how you pronounce it.
But we pronounce it that way to some degree because of where accents are located. And so there are people that are very particular about where the accents sit on the text or in the text.
All right.
So let's talk about the three kinds of accents that we have. And this is what they think. They don't know this for sure. This is the whole thing, is they don't know that this is exactly what the accents, but they think that the accents had to do with where you put pitch, or we say emphasis, where you put a pitch change. So you had the acute accent, which is the one that kind of goes towards the end of a word. So you have put this accent here, and you'd say, remember this like this, hamartia. So this tells you what? Hamartia. I'm just trying to really emphasize that there's this accent as you get out here.
No, you're saying it wrong.
Oh, because I'm putting the accent on the alpha.
Yeah.
Hamartia. Thank you. Okay. See, I'm horrible with accents. I was even horrible with
deodorant.
I was horrible with accents even when I was in high school. I got A's in English, but I never understood accenting, and we don't even use accent marks. The grave accent, which we don't have on here, but we'll substitute it here. The grave accent only goes on the last syllable, and it's a down pitch. So you'd say hamartia is what they think. You'd go down on that. And then if we were to put it, if we could do this, you put a if we put a circumflex here, this is kind of like an acute and a grave together. So it's Hamartia. So it's like, there's a rise in it. The only problem with that is when people speak, people speak so fast.
Yeah.
You don't, they do it, but it's just, you don't even hardly hear the rise and fall. It's just, and we all know what that's like when you talk with people that speak Spanish, that you say a word and they're like, they kind of look at you, smirk like, okay, yeah, good try. Because they know how they accent the word. They grew up saying this, and they've got that subtle nuance in there that they put in there that just, they've learned it since they were a little kid first hearing the language spoke. And us, we're like, trying to figure this out, and we don't catch that. So these are the accents. They only can, just so you understand this, they can only go on the last 3 syllables. And a word has as many syllables as it has vowels or diphthongs. So this has 1 syllable here, 1 syllable here for the upsilon, and then this forms a syllable at the end. Okay, and a syllable can be a standalone vowel. It does not have to have a consonant with it. Okay.
But a diphthong forms 1.
But a diphthong, yeah, and this is not a diphthong here. This is actually, so this word is ham, mar, t, so there's 4 syllables. So you can, and the other rule is you can only put accents on these. So,
The last 3.
so the acute can go on those 3. The circumflex can go on this or this, and the grave only can go on the last.
But the circumflex only goes on long vowels.
And yes, there's other rules about that. I'm just trying to show you where they are, and they only go on long vowels in the only places they can go. So there are other rules. Like I said, we're not going to stress over that. We are not going to fuss over accents, but I want you to be aware of them, because if for some reason you ever go on and take an advanced Greek class somewhere, they might fuss over it. I don't know why. I think because their professors did, and sometimes the professor just doesn't want to let go of something that they had to learn. They think everybody else has to learn that. So, okay. Other questions?
So in the exercises at the end of chapter 2, where it says, remember to stress the syllable, which is accented, you don't want us to worry about that?
I wouldn't worry about it a whole lot. I wouldn't. But the thing is if you do kind of see the accent, and if you were going to pronounce a word for somebody else, I mean, you're going to find, look at the accent, you can put stress on that syllable. Maybe it might make it easier for those people to kind of pick up what word you're talking about, if they don't see it right in front of them. So let's, for the fun of it then, let's go through that list of words on the bottom on the textbook page. Does everybody have the textbook page? Page 9. And we have a list of words that are divided into syllables. Okay, it's page 9 on mine. It's in a box under
this thing. Yeah.
There you go. Wow, that's so cool how big that gets.
Well, I zoomed in.
Okay, so we're going to go around and we're going to start down here. We're going to go backwards now. We're going to go clockwise. So we're still working on pronunciation. So.
All right. So that first one I would say is Luis.
Okay. Remember,
No.
epsilon iota, it makes kind of like the I sound like a height. So.
Luis. Luis.
Luis. Yes, Luis.
Are we going across or columns?
We're going to go down in columns. Okay. And the only reason I make I mean, it is important to do that because that is the way we pronounce it. But eventually when you learn the paradigm for the verb, it's going to be, because this is the way I learned it. And I learned to kind of call these out quickly. It's o, ice, I, amen, edit, usi. O, ice, I, amen, edit, usi. And so if you get that ice, that's, so, okay, I'm stopping this. Okay. So Luis, okay.
My very limited knowledge, this
That's
is my
right.
guess, and it might be way off. Luodia?
Okay. That last syllable, the first letter is a sigma in the center of the word. So it's
Whole thing is
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's yeah, because it has that.
All three of those just say,
No, just
Just
the O thing.
oh.
So
Oh, the hat.
there we go.
Gosh, come on, eyes. So that's Yoda.
Yeah, I don't know.
Loosen. I'm putting an accent on the ooh there. Loosen.
Hmm.
Okay.
So the iota says I there.
Loosen. Yeah. Yeah. That's the way I have learned to pronounce it in those cases. So
Okay.
Does anybody else say seen?
I've never heard anybody say seam. They may, but I've never heard anybody say it that
And
way.
Circle of people.
So how do I know?
Sometimes, let's put it this way: when you drop the noon off the end of that, because sometimes you're going to see that as Lucy. Then people say Lucy, but when they put the noon on the end, then it's a Lucin. I've never heard them say Lucine. So, and maybe some people do.
Okay.
Okay.
Lumbonomen.
Lambonomen. Okay. And by the way, Luis is you destroy. Luusin is they destroy or loose. Lambonomen. You don't need to memorize these, but I'm just letting you know that that's we take or we receive. Okay.
Pharaoh.
Pharaoh. No. I carry.
Pharaoh.
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 Pharaoh. Pharaoh. Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of those. It's one of those words that sometimes when you say it, it sounds like you're saying kind of a long A sound, but not really. It's I'm saying
I
it
remember
as a short.
yeah, it was you. You're always teaching Greek. Pharaoh was always carried. So
Oh,
Pharaoh.
yeah. Yeah, you do all kinds of crazy things to learn vocabulary
More
for other
vocab.
languages, in my opinion. Okay, there you go. Which is this thing, or these things.
What did you say?
These things.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying one of these things. Like what one thing?
So what's the mark on that though? Because you didn't mention that.
That's that. Ooh.
That's the circumflex mark here.
Oh, because this looks
Yeah.
like a
Tau,
tilde,
Oh,
you know, not just the.
oh, does yours come out as a tilde on yours?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is a tilde, right? That's what you call it, a tilde?
Oh, it is.
What?
It does come out that way. Huh. Okay. See, and that's when I type in Greek on mine, that's what comes up when I try to put a
Oh.
circumflex. If I use the normal font I use, I have to switch to a Helvetica font
Oh,
to make
yeah.
a proper
See, yours is doing
circumflex.
tilde.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it doesn't do
Same
that.
thing, but it's the same thing.
Okay. Ercometha. Ercometha.
Ercometha. There we go. Ercometha.
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 Ah.
That's right.
Ah.
Which is we come.
Word again?
Ercometha. Ercometha.
We come. Okay.
Thanatos.
There you go. It's death.
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 How do we remember that?
Thanos brings death.
There
That's
you
right.
go.
That's
right. Thank God for comics.
There you go.
Avengers.
Yeah.
Something wrong?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And that's that vowel after the delta is a omega. So it's a long O sound is the vowel.
Yeah, I know.
Doron?
Doron, Doron, which is a gift. A gift.
Oh my gosh. Eru.
What?
Eru? I can't, I'm having a problem seeing right now.
That's
Okay.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Eru.
Heiru. Yeah.
There's a breathing mark.
Oh,
Here.
Oh, I thought you were
see it.
saying the breathing mark.
No, I
Okay.
can't, I couldn't.
Okay.
Eru.
Say it again.
Heiru.
Heru.
Heiru.
Heru.
Heiru. Because you're pronouncing those each separately. Heiru.
So you're going high? Heru.
Well, I'm saying, that's the way I grew up saying that.
Hi.
Yeah.
Oh my
So I can
God.
say it.
This goes all the way back to
Greek.
this goes all the way back to Greek class in 1983, and that's the way the professor taught it then.
Heru.
Yeah.
What is that word?
Um,
Heru.
Heiru. This is the word for
Hayaru.
a priest.
That's a breathing.
So do you go
Or act,
Hayaru or Hayaru? Where are you?
Hayaru.
well, the accent is on the final syllable.
Oh,
So,
Here's
yeah.
this TV.
I need to
Yes.
get it
There
on
you
here.
go.
Oh,
See, I
wee.
told you we should download this for you.
Hayaru. Wait, where is it?
You're right here.
Hayaru.
Ooh.
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
Is it me?
Yeah.
Irene.
Oh, that.
Irene.
Irene, yes.
Okay.
Irene. Yeah, that's peace. And
Oh, yeah.
Hayaru is not priest, but it's temple. There, it's related. The two words look alike, and I'm thinking through that. So there's was temple, peace. Okay, sorry, I'm just trying to correct my brain here.
Is it?
Am I wrong?
Pardon me?
Am I wrong?
Hey, yeah, hey,
Hemeron?
Hemeron, Hemeron, Hemeron.
Hemeron.
Yeah.
Oh, Hemeron.
Hemeron.
That's right, Hemeron.
Okay, okay.
What does that mean?
Which is hours or of the day. No, this is of the day. This is of the days. Of the days.
And
I'm
what does
sorry.
yours mean?
Irene, that's peace. Okay, this is of the day. When they're divided apart like this, I'm trying to put it back together in my head and looking, going, hey, wait a second.
Yeah, when I was practicing this, looking at it, I'm like, I have no idea. Are these multiple words? I have no
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just divided into syllables. So here's a good one where we have a diphthong.
Huias.
Huias, sun.
Yes. Okay, so
Yes.
even though the breathing mark is over the ypsilon or the iota instead of the upsilon, we put the h because it's a diphthong.
Because it's a diphthong, right?
Yeah.
So because you're pronouncing the upsilon and the iota as one vowel.
That's sun.
Okay, it is.
Sun like the sun.
Like
Sun like,
Like-
a
Like
boy.
a male.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or an adult male. That's what we talk about. We're all sons. Okay.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
Yeah.
Agagon.
Okay. Or a gagon. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Wait. There's no
What?
accent.
There's no
What?
accent over the ga.
No, there's no
A
accent.
ga. That's why I'm not going up.
Yes, you are.
I am. Oh, see, I cannot hear my voice going up. A gagon.
No. Hey, God.
No, there's no rough breathing mark.
Oh, sorry.
No.
There isn't?
Smooth.
Oh, hey, God.
Smooth.
Agagon.
Agagon. Okay. Which has to do, it's a form of the word ago, I lead, but it's changed because it's saying something different at this moment in time, which you don't need to learn that right now.
No, these two gammas are not together, or
They are, because
They are.
they're just broken into syllables.
So we
Yeah.
have the ng.
Yeah.
So. Is that an L?
Yeah.
Angelia?
Uh-huh.
Angelia, okay.
What is
Now, we had one of our vocabulary words was angelos,
Right.
which was
that?
messenger. So
Messenger.
this
Oh,
is
you
a
said
feminine form.
Oh.
This is not a messenger, but
Messengers.
no,
No.
it's feminine.
Oh,
So it's not the messenger. It's I'm just seeing if you can figure it. Message. This
oh,
is the
that's
message.
it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh. No.
Well, you're going to find lots. You're
Wasn't
going to.
gonna get there.
Yeah.
The messenger.
A girl messenger.
To me, it,
A girl messenger. It's feminine.
Well,
I know, that's what I'm thinking.
it's really interesting in Greek. A lot of times, a masculine is something that's small. So Petros, like Peter's name, Petros, like a chunk of rock. Petra, bedrock. Basileus is a king. Basilia, kingdom, bigger. So the feminine is always bigger and the masculine frequently smaller. And so you have the messenger, angelos, angelia, the message, which is the more important or the larger thing. It's not always the case, but to me, I found that to be interesting quite often.
Whose turn is it?
I think it's your turn.
Oh, okay. Agios.
Hagios.
Oh, is there a breathing mark?
Yes, there is. Oh,
A breathing mark and the accent.
Wait,
Okay, sorry.
wait, no, this is a smooth breathing mark.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, smooth, okay, Agios.
no, there should be a rough breathing mark over the
Well,
top
it's
of
not,
that.
honey, you did it wrong. You did that wrong.
I'm looking in my book, my textbook right here.
Well, it's not,
This is her notes.
This is her
This
notes,
is
honey.
also the textbook.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the-
Yeah, so they've changed that then from the textbook, because if you look in your textbook, it's a rough breathing mark.
It is. Is it? Yeah, it is. Uh-huh, okay.
Hagios.
So it's a typo or they changed their mind?
No, it has a rough breathing mark because it's the word for a saint or a holy person. Yeah, and we get,
Hag, so it
interesting
should
enough,
be the other way on there.
we get
Hag,
our word hag from that,
'cause they were.
because some of these people, after you got away from the church a couple of centuries, you'd have these people that would go up in the mountains thinking they were being more holy by living in a hole in the hill,
They went to
and they would just
themselves
live,
apart.
they just let themselves just fall apart up there and trying to be separated. And we ended up
Yeah.
getting the word hag, yeah, from that. Okay.
Yeah, interesting.
Hmm.
In this version.
What?
This next one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the next one is. Oh, that stupid letter. Okay. Cathario? Oh, it's a, okay, so, yeah. Catharizo.
There.
Rizo?
Yes. Yes.
So the
Catharizo.
vowels are the short sounds if there's no mark.
No, you have, that's one of the things that we went over last week. In the notes and in the book, it tells you which vowels are long, which are
But
short.
that ips,
And some of them,
iota.
iota can be
Screwy
either.
gooey one.
It can be either where it
Or
occurs.
it could say I, according to.
Yeah.
Is you're saying catharizo?
No, mine,
Oh.
I
It
mean,
could say Catharizzo,
no, but when you
Catharizzo.
were pronouncing. Iron.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Chiron, yeah,
Right,
Yeah.
so now it's saying I,
yes. So, yeah.
it means rules.
It's just, it's a matter of just, you learn words, you learn
Right.
vocabulary,
Right.
just, yeah,
You say it how everybody else says it,
yeah.
which isn't always the same.
And I know it sounds hard when you're getting started, but trust me, pretty soon you pick this up and a lot of this will eventually become second nature. So catharizo means I cleanse or I clean.
Poiumen?
Poiomen. We do, or we produce, or
Pseudomine.
pseudomine,
Pseudomine.
which is I lie. That is, I tell a lie. I speak a lie. Okay. So anyway, so if you have the workbook, which I think, as I said, I would recommend that you get the workbook. I cut mine apart many years ago when I was teaching this and did this way just because otherwise in the bound copy like Peg has, that's the way mine came. The binding starts to break and pages start to fall out, and I found out this is. If you go through here, I would work on all of all the lesson parts except for the section where you get into talking about accents, and I wouldn't worry about accents. Don't worry about practicing accents, which are 2.7 and that section, and I wouldn't worry about those.
Oh, it hasn't shown up yet.
Really? Okay.
Wow.
Well, I ordered it from Libris, I think is what it's called,
From where?
some website. It's cheap.
Oh,
It's been
a
shipped.
Libris, yeah.
Oh,
We've ordered
okay,
books
yeah.
from them in years past too. So, anyway, any questions or comments on any of this stuff?
I don't think so.
Okay, so next week we're actually going to start working on.
Next week?
Oh, Thursday. Yes.
Okay.
we will move into lesson 3 where we'll actually start working on verbs. We're going to actually start learning present active indicative form of the verb and what that looks like, what it does, and some significance of that. But you're at this stage. Now, what you've learned to do, and I was telling Peggy this last night, that I had a friend that I talked to, and he said he'd run into somebody and was telling something to the guy, and he's trying to explain something from the Bible, and this guy goes, "Oh, well, my Bible doesn't say that." And he goes, "Oh," he says, "well, it says this in the Greek." And so he went and got out of his car, went and got an interlinear and was showing him the Greek in there. And the guy goes, "Oh," he says, "well, I don't know Greek." He says, "I'll teach you Greek real fast." And they said, "Oh, you know Greek?" He goes, "Yeah, I know Greek. I know how to read Greek." And I said, "Really?" And so in talking with him over a couple of minutes, because I didn't know that he knew how to read Greek, what he knew how to do was he knew how to pronounce Greek. So he knew how to actually go through and the text and pronounce the words and read through a line of text. And he said, that's knowing how to pronounce, which is a big deal. You got to figure out how to pronounce it before you can actually read it. I said, reading is being able to say those words and then comprehend what it is you're reading. That's actually what reading is. So, we are at the stage where we are learning to pronounce words. We have some vocabulary. Practice your vocabulary. I think I already suggested last week that you could download on your phone.
You had all these vocabulary words on your
worksheet.
Yes, they were on the screen for them to
Okay.
see. But if you go to and actually, if you want to do this work, and I should do this for you, but I haven't figured out how to do it yet. But let me go back out of this. There is an app I bought. It's $4, $3.99. It's called Flashcards. And you just get on your computer and you just open and you make your own flashcards. You just create a database. You just create a database on your computer, and then you just upload it here, and you can turn them into flashcards. But you also, and I believe this one is free, which I think I told you about last week, which is the
Which
new
one?
This second
You
one.
should show them on the screen.
Which is
Parse Greek.
I don't well, not Parse Greek. It's the one next to it. It's the NOBTS, which is the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary vocabulary. And that's a set of flashcards that are already put together. And I believe they're using the flashcard program to do those. So those are helpful because I think as I brought that box down last week when I was taking Greek and even into seminary, because in seminary every week when I was in seminary, we had to add like 20 words of vocabulary every week. So I'm going to work and I've got this tack, and every time that there's a little spare time, I'm flipping through vocabulary words, checking myself. These are things that you can use. And like I said, I think the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary vocabulary cards, I think those are free to download. I'm not for sure.
Yeah, it is.
And they're going to have some vocabulary words we may not have introduced yet, but you can start learning. You can start learning those. But next week, you'll actually start learning to read Greek, not just, well, you've kind of been introducing it a little bit, but you'll really do it when we get to the verb. So.
Can you show me your flashcards app again? Because I'm not seeing one that looks like what you showed me.
Oh, the one that you make your own?
Yeah, the flashcards. It's just called flashcards.
Yeah.
Flashcards, one word, no space.
Okay. We'll end this.
I imagine.
And we'll see you on Thursday at 9.